in the heart of the rugged wilderness. A tiny Mustang Foal was found abandoned and alone. But what happened next will leave you in awe. This incredible story of love, belonging, and identity will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about animals. If this tale touches your heart, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear that being different is actually a superpower. Leave us a comment below. What are your thoughts on this extraordinary bond? Now, let's dive into the story. It all began on a chilly spring morning in the remote hills of Silver Pine Valley. A young ranch hand named Liam heard faint cries echoing through the still air. Following the sound, he stumbled upon a heartbreaking scene. A newborn golden colt, barely hours old, lying beside his lifeless mother. The poor creature was weak, shivering, and utterly helpless. Knowing the foal wouldn't survive without help, Liam made an impulsive yet compassionate decision. He gently lifted the fragile baby into his truck and drove him back to his cabin, a humble home shared with 3 loyal dogs. The dogs, Max, a German shepherd, Bella, a golden retriever, and Charlie, a border collie, watched curiously as Liam carried the tiny horse into the barn. The foal was so small that he barely reached Max's shoulder height. But something unexpected happened when Liam prepared formula for the hungry foal. Instead of showing fear or hesitation, the dogs surrounded the trembling baby horse. Max, the pack leader, began licking the foal clean, just as he would puppy. Bella laid down beside him, offering her warmth. And Charlie, ever vigilant, kept watch, alerting Liam whenever the foal stirred. In that moment, the dogs had already decided they were going to raise this strange, long-legged baby as one of their own. Liam named the foal Star because of the white star-shaped marking on his forehead. Over the weeks, something truly remarkable unfolded. Star didn't grow up thinking he was a horse. No, thanks to his canine siblings, he believed he was a dog. When the dogs barked at passing vehicles, Star joined in with a bizarre mix of neighing and barking that never failed to make Liam laugh. During feeding time, Star waited patiently in line with the dogs, expecting his bottle right alongside their bowls. Playtime became even more endearing. Whenever Liam threw tennis balls to the dogs, Star galloped after them, attempting to pick them up with his mouth just like his furry siblings. At night, instead of standing like a normal horse, Star curled up in a heap with the dogs, snuggling close despite his growing size. By the time Star turned 6 months old, his dog-like behaviors had become hilariously pronounced. Despite towering over his canine family, he still tried squeezing into their doghouse during thunderstorms. Visitors couldn't help but chuckle at the sight of the gangly colt cramming his head inside while his massive body remained outside. His antics didn't stop there. Every morning, when Liam let the dogs out, Star bounded along with them, awkwardly lifting one front leg while relieving himself, a comical imitation of how Max marked territory. Delivery drivers often found themselves startled by the guard horse, who acted more like an oversized guard dog. One regular driver, Tom, even started bringing extra treats just to see Star sit on his haunches like a dog, begging eagerly. The local vet, Dr. Emily Carter, was fascinated by Star's behavior. She documented the unusual case of species confusion, but noted that, for Star, there was no confusion. To him, he was simply part of the pack. He mimicked their social cues, respected their hierarchy, and communicated using their methods. When happy, he bared his teeth in a dog-like grin. When scolded, he flattened his ears. Even though wagging a horse tail wasn't physically effective, Star gave it his best shot. Despite being 10 times Max's size, Star accepted the German Shepherd authority without question. Bella had become his closest companion, and they were often seen grooming each other. Meanwhile, Charlie took on the role of teacher, showing Star how to herd sheep, a task the eager colt approached with clumsy enthusiasm. Everything changed the day Star encountered his first real horses. A wild herd wandered onto the far edge of Liam's property, led by a majestic bay stallion. Star, grazing peacefully with the dogs, looked up in alarm. Confused, he turned to Max for guidance. The dogs barked at the intruders, and Star joined in with his signature bark neigh. To the wild horses, the sound coming from what appeared to be one of their own was baffling. As the bay stallion approached, Star responded with pure dog behavior. He lowered his front end in a playful bow, attempted to wag his tail, and bounced around like Charlie did when meeting new dogs. The stallion stopped, tilting his head in bewilderment. When the stallion nickered greeting, Star didn't respond with a whinny. Instead, he looked to Max, whining in confusion. Sensing Star's distress, Max moved protectively between his packmate and the strangers, growling low. Bella and Charlie flanked Star, forming a protective circle around their oversized brother. What followed was a comedic yet touching scene of miscommunication. The wild horses tried various equine social gestures, mutual grooming invitations, peaceful grazing demonstrations, and friendly nickers. Star responded with dog behaviors, play bows, attempt to initiate chase games, and puzzled head tilts. When a young filly tried to engage him in typical horseplay, Star grabbed a stick and pranced around, trying to get her to play tug-of-war. Dr. Carter, who Liam had called to observe the historic meeting, took detailed notes. He's experiencing complete species dysphoria, she explained. Star doesn't recognize these animals as his own kind. To him, they're as foreign as cattle or deer. The encounter triggered an identity crisis in Star. For days afterward, he stood at the fence line, staring at the distant herd with a mix of confusion and curiosity. He'd make tentative whinnies, his first real horse vocalizations, then immediately look guilty and revert to his bark neigh as if he'd done something wrong. The dog sensed his inner turmoil and stayed closer than usual, offering comfort in their own ways. Liam noticed Star beginning to experiment with horse behaviors when he thought no one was watching. He'd practiced trotting with the high-stepping gait he'd observed in the wild horses, then quickly switched back to his bouncing dog-like gallop when the pack came running. He attempted to graze standing up instead of lying down like the dogs, but still insisted on bringing mouthfuls of grass to share with Bella, dropping them at her feet like offerings. The turning point came when Star injured his leg jumping off a rock formation he'd seen the dogs navigate easily. As Dr. Carter treated the sprain, she gently explained to Liam that Star needed to learn his physical limitations as a horse. "He's getting too big to keep acting like a dog," she said. "But we can't just thrust him into horse society either. He needs a gradual transition." Her solution was brilliant. Introducing Star to a therapy horse named Gentle George, an elderly quarter horse known for his patience with troubled animals. George arrived the following week, and the meeting was carefully orchestrated. Star approached George with his usual dog greeting, but instead of being offended, George stood patiently, allowing the unusual interaction. When Star play bowed, George lowered his head in a horse greeting, creating a bridge between their different languages. Over the following days, George became Star's translator between the dog and horse worlds. He grazed near the pack, showing Star that horses could be part of a mixed species group. Slowly, George introduced proper horse behaviors, mutual neck grooming, parallel grazing, and appropriate equine body language. The breakthrough came when George taught Star to whinny properly. It started with George calling to Liam at feeding time, and Star, wanted to participate, attempted to copy the sound. His first real whinny was shaky and uncertain, but George encouraged him with soft nickers. The dogs watched this development with what Liam swore was pride. Their pack member was learning new skills, even if they were strange horse skills. As autumn approached, Star had become fluent in both dog and horse languages, creating a unique hybrid identity. He whinnied to greet George in the morning, then bark neighed at the mailman with his dog pack. He learned to run like a proper horse when racing across the pasture, but still insisted on carrying sticks and tennis balls in his mouth. The local news caught wind of the story, and soon Liam's ranch was flooded with visitors wanting to see the famous horse who thought he was a dog, or was it the dog who thought he was a horse? The media attention brought an unexpected opportunity. A wild horse sanctuary in Wyoming struggling with orphan foals wondered if Star might serve as a bridge between species. After much deliberation, Liam agreed to a trial visit, though his heart was heavy at the thought of Star leaving, even temporarily. At the sanctuary, Star's unique skills proved invaluable. The orphan foals, traumatized and withdrawn, were initially frightened of adult horses, but Star's playful, dog-like approach intrigued them. He'd drop to the ground and wiggle on his back like Charlie, making the foals curious rather than fearful. When they finally approached, He'd groomed them like George had taught him while play bowing like his dog siblings had shown him. The transformation was remarkable. Foals who hadn't interacted with anyone began following Star, learning horse behaviors from him while being comforted by his gentle dog-like patience. He'd share his hay by bringing mouthfuls to the smallest foals, a dog food sharing behavior applied to horse feeding. When the foals were frightened by thunder, Star would herd them into the shelter like Charlie herded sheep, then lie down with them in a comforting pile like he did with his dog pack. After 3 months, Star had successfully helped integrate 12 orphan foals into various foster herds. His unique approach revolutionized the sanctuary's rehabilitation program. But Liam noticed something troubling during his visits. Star was losing some of his dog-like behaviors. He still played and showed affection uniquely, but the constant company of horses was slowly overriding his canine programming. Liam faced an impossible decision: leave Star where he was clearly needed or bring him home to his original pack. The decision was made for him when Max fell seriously ill. Liam called the sanctuary, explaining he needed to bring Star home immediately. The reunion at the ranch was emotional beyond words. Star burst from the trailer, whinnying for George, then immediately began bark neighing when he saw his dog pack. Max, weak but alert, struggled to his feet, tail wagging. Star dropped to the ground beside his canine father figure, gently nuzzling the old German shepherd. For the next week, Star never left Max's side. He'd bring the ailing dog mouthfuls of the softest hay, dropping them near Max's bed as if offering comfort food. When Max passed peacefully with his pack around him, Star's grief was profound. He stood over Max's still form, producing a mournful combination of whinny and bark that seemed to express sorrow beyond species boundaries. In the weeks that followed, Star stepped into a new role. Without Max's leadership, the pack dynamic shifted. To everyone's surprise, Star began displaying protective alpha behaviors, watching over Bella and Charlie with increased vigilance. He patrolled the property boundaries at dawn like Max used to, his bark warning off potential intruders. When Charlie developed arthritis, Star would lie down so the border collie could lean against him for warmth. Dr. Carter proposed a revolutionary program, creating a rehabilitation center at Liam's ranch that combined Star's unique abilities with traditional therapy approaches. The sanctuary agreed to partner, sending small groups of traumatized horses to work with Star while allowing him to remain with his dog family. The cross-species healing ranch opened 6 months later. The first residents were 3 orphan foals and 2 rescued horses with severe trust issues. Star's approach was unlike anything in traditional horse therapy. He'd introduce new horses to his dog pack first, showing them that predator species could be family. Then he'd teach them his hybrid communication style, part horse, part dog, all heart. 5-year-old Emma Morrison was the program's first human client. Severely traumatized and selectively mute after an accident, she hadn't spoken in months. Traditional therapy horses made her nervous, but Star's dog-like behaviors made her smile. When Star dropped a tennis ball at her feet and play bowed, Emma giggled. Her first vocalization in half a year. By session's end, she was throwing the ball while Star and Bella raced to retrieve it, calling out, "Good boys," to both. Veterans with PTSD found comfort in Star's unique understanding of pack loyalty. Children on the autism spectrum connected with his different way of being in the world. Elderly clients laughed at his antics while finding peace in his gentle presence. Star worked with each person and horse individually, somehow knowing whether they needed his horse wisdom or his dog playfulness. As Liam watched Star work with a particularly withdrawn rescue horse, teaching it to play tug-of-war with a rope toy, he reflected on the journey. The orphan foal, raised by dogs, had become a bridge between worlds, healing hearts across species barriers. Bold lesson: love knows no boundaries, not a species, not a convention. True family is built on acceptance, loyalty, and the courage to embrace who you are, even if you're a horse who thinks he's a dog.